Hi, my name is Jim Felman, and I am the nowist, and you still are in the problem solving and solution providing business. I know it's getting a little old, but I need to drive that home so that you get it in your head what your real business is. Look, we all face objections. The no, 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 no. The truth of the matter is, are you getting the no from the decision maker? Are you in the know that you're talking to the decision maker? Everybody can say no. The trick is to find who can say yes. So by the end of this module, you should be able to identify those things that stop you from being a good listener, because that's what many people do. You recognize your own biases and you draw up your own action plan. Look, we all fall into this bucket. We're not necessarily good listeners because we're doing too much talking. You've heard it before, we'll say it again. God gave you two ears, one mouth. Listen twice as much as you talk. I find that the more I listen, the more authoritative I become when I actually say something. I have sat in meetings, hour in length, not saying a word. Finally, someone will say, and Feldman, what do you think? And I can derail the entire momentum because it's the first time I've spoken. If, on the other hand, every couple of minutes I got something to say, something to add, my authoritative position gets diminished. There are barriers to concentration. We all have a full plate. You've got to learn to focus and focus on what matters. If you're not making money, or saving time, stop doing it. I refer to that as stop the stupid stuff. And there are peaks and valleys. Some people are morning people, some people are night people. Identify when you are at your peak performance. I find I do some of my best creative thinking after the day is over. I find that my execution is better in the morning because I've had the night to sleep on it. And believe me, when I sleep on it, I'm still thinking. That's right. And take advantage of those variations. Omega Watch did a very interesting survey. They surveyed 100 chief executives, probably gave each of them a new watch for doing it. And most of them said before 9 or after 5. Now, I'm not saying that I read this first, but that's really me. That describes me. And I like to work before 9 o'clock so the phone's not ringing. I find that, as Gordon Gekko said in Wall Street, lunches are for wimps. Unless I'm at a business lunch or I'm networking or I'm pitching an idea or a client, lunches to me are an interruption in my business day. And when we talk about productivity after 5 p.m., I want to think that it depends on you and not necessarily your clock. A lot of people prefer mornings to afternoons because they've had a full night's sleep. But only you can determine when you're most productive, and we're going to talk about that in a moment. Now ask yourself, are you a good listener? Fatigue, personal rhythms, you know the rest, noise, seating, lack of motivation, physical breaks, they all get in the way of being a good listener. If you're tired, if you're upset, if you're angry, if you haven't had a break, you don't want to listen to somebody talking about their problems. So, are you asleep? Are you relaxed? Are you functioning well? How intense is the meeting? Those are all factors that we can't predict, but you need to be aware of them as you bring together those forces, those triggers to help you overcome the challenges and objections. So there's a thing called a concentration graph. So you write down the hour of concentration that you are medium, high, or low, and you create a graph for each working day in 1 week. That's all you have to do. Now, this may sound like a lot, but it will pay off tenfold. You pencil in the key periods of the day, you record noisy or light periods, and at the end of the period, you analyze the graphs. And that's going to be your assignment. So pay attention. At the end of today's module, your assignment is going to be to create your concentration graph. And if you don't know how to do it, you're never going to complete the assignment. So that's kind of what the graph looks like if you are analytical. If you have put in plot points, if you've gone into an Excel spreadsheet and you have it create the graph. There's any number of ways to do it. I'm not going to tell you how to create the graph. Most of you already know. But the trick is to examine the graphs, look for the peaks and valleys, identify your high points and your low points, and relate it to your work schedule. This is really important. When are you getting the most benefit and when are you the least productive? You start to ask yourself questions. Can you rearrange your schedule? Are certain things always interrupting you? Do you have an open door policy? Do you spend a lot of time answering emails? I typically group my emails. There is nothing so urgent in an email that I have to stop what I'm doing. If it's that urgent, pick up the phone and call me. Now, sometimes people text me. I have a tendency to respond to a text faster than an email. And I get about 1,500 spam emails a day. And I use something called Maelstrom, which I will tell you about later in the resources, but I use it to filter out who I get emails from, who I want to hear from, etc., etc. If you have created your graph correctly, you should identify your barriers. Why? Because they'll jump out at you. You should identify your peak and valley. You'll see it in your productivity graph, and you'll organize your work to become more productive and more concentrated in delivering end results. Here it is again. Create your graph. Indicate everything in the graph that's possible. There are apps that are available if you want to chart your sleeping. This is the same thing that you're charting when you're awake. Your assignment, should you decide to accept it, is to create your own concentration graph. What you say will influence what you think. If you're tired, if you're annoyed, you may say something that changes the trajectory of everything you're doing, and we have to avoid that. What you think influences how you feel, and how you feel influences what you do, and what you do influences your results every single time. So, this is a shorter module because it's got a big assignment. Create your concentration graph. Any questions? You know how to reach me. And every Thursday, we have a Zoom call. You're more than welcome to attend, and we will help you solve any problems or concerns that you have. Thanks again for listening, and remember, only you can ensure that your shift happens.